Welcome to the Infill Podcast, where we interview the most interesting members of the 3D printing and maker communities, live and with audience participation. And now, here is your host, Jonathan Levy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm so excited to have you all here for a very, very special treat. I'm not going to waste time. I think you all know who's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Joel Telling, otherwise known as the 3D printing nerd, but in my mind, I call him the OG 3D printing content creator. He's been around since 3D printing was created, but also he's just known as kind of the nicest, sweetest, most high-fivingest guy in the entire community. I'm really excited. So let's all welcome, ladies and gents, Mr. Joel Telling. Joel, there you are. Welcome.
There I am. Hi. Welcome. Hey, thanks for having me. This should be a good time.
Thank you for being here. I'm really, really excited. I want to ask, I tried to do justice to your bio, but I'd love for the one person in the audience who doesn't watch your content yet, if you shared a little bit about who you are from your perspective. Do you identify as an entrepreneur? Do you identify first and foremost as a maker, a creator? When people ask you what you do, what do you say?
So I usually go, hi, my name is Joel Telling. I'm host of 3D Printing Nerd, a show that attempts to inspire and educate, all while having a really good time. I live in the beautiful Pacific Northwest here in the United States. I'm a husband, a father, a believer, and a giver of high fives.
That is really good. You have rehearsed that.
It's almost like I've said it before.
It's very, very impressive. I love that. Past life. I think I heard you mention at one point that you were a software engineer when you got into all of this. Tell me about that and how that carries into your day-to-day life today and what tools you use, if any.
Okay. So long ago, I started out in the software field as tech support for the Windows 95 launch. I worked for a company called Keen out of Seattle, and I worked the swing shift, and I lived roughly a 45-minute to an hour drive away. And so I would have to leave my home at like 1 p.m. in the afternoon. I wouldn't get home until after midnight. It was a bit much. I met some great friends though, and that eventually led to my segue into certain contracting jobs at Microsoft. One of the best things about being in the Seattle area is, Microsoft and a lot of other tech companies, at least during the .com era, were plentiful and hiring lots of contractors, which meant I got a decent hourly wage. So I did that. Eventually, I moved from QA, quality assurance, quality control, like test engineer, to a dev in test or QC in test, whatever it depends on the company you go to, where I did a little bit of coding in order to help my test processes kind of get going. Like I would create test frameworks. Before I was before the 3D printing nerd, I worked at Adobe on the After Effects team, and I was a dev and test. And my job there was to determine which of the baked-in special effects that you could composite onto footage within the After Effects program, which of those ran best on the CPU and which of those ran best on the GPU. And so I utilized the scripting language within After Effects to build a test harness where I could run varying effects sets and time the running of specific sequences or projects that I had made, and then give that data back. And that's where it was. I even had my own startup company where I reused PhoneGap, which is an ECMA 262 compliant language like JavaScript. Mm-hmm. And you can, using PhoneGap, compile binaries for iPhone and Android and Windows Phone at the time. Remember that? And so I used PhoneGap to create a client, and then another guy used we had a LAMP server, and using JSON packages throwing back and forth, we did like a little social media app revolved around drinking. It was fun.
So that is way more technical than I thought. I figured you were going to say, being in the Seattle area before Amazon was as big as it is today. I kind of knew you were going to say either Microsoft or Adobe, but I figured you'd say like, oh yeah, I was working on user interface. That's like heavy, designing your own testing.
It was. Dude, I worked for Microsoft, a couple different contracts. I worked for Hewlett Packard. I worked for America Online. I worked for a startup called Action Engine. I worked for Adobe. Like
you got around.
From what I remember, my resume was pretty decent. Well, and also you did ask about what tools do I use today,
Right.
So obviously, I'm having the most experience within the Adobe set of creator products. I use those. We use DaVinci Resolve in order to take in raw footage and apply a LUT and then give us something good.
Yeah.
And then I and my editors utilize Premiere Pro and After Effects to kind of do the editing work.
So I have a lot of questions based on what you just said. But the first one is, you did what sounds like very hard work before. Simple question. You don't have to pontificate because this is kind of an obnoxious one. But which line of work was harder? Working in heavy tech or creator work?
Well, creator work is probably the hardest work that I've ever done that I love the most. And so when you think about it, well, at least for me, the concept of content creation is on my mind from the time I wake up until the time I go to bed. And 100%. So every day is a Monday. But then again, if every day is a Monday, every day is also a Friday. And so
that is very true.
So it's the hardest work, but I think that this hardest work gives me the ability to be the most present with my family, have the ability to do time shift. Like I don't have to necessarily work 9 to 5. I can work 10 to 6. I can work 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. It doesn't really matter as long as the job gets done. And so while working for Adobe was fun, and I got a lot of experience, I met a lot of really wonderful people. At the same time, it wasn't as hard as working for myself, but I didn't love it as much as working for myself.
I can totally relate, and I'm unemployable, so I've never actually worked for anybody. I've never gotten a paycheck that I didn't.
I don't know. In the tech field, in the .com era, I bet someone would have given you a 6-figure salary.
Maybe, but I my story goes that I tried to get a job at 16 at Jamba Juice and I got rejected, and then I tried to get a job at Togo's. I was really late to the interview, or I was late to Jamba Juice, and they told me, we just don't think you're Togo's material. So I went home and I started a company, and I never looked back. I kind of figured I'm just unemployable. But I will say that being a creator is harder than anything, and it is. You articulated it very nicely. It's not just the putting yourself out there, right? And like the criticisms and the feedbacks and like the juggling, which you have to do. You have to manage a business.
Okay. I got to stop you because the juggling, everybody who's watching, you have to know that 5 minutes before we were starting, he was busy tending to his kid.
Right.
Because I could hear the kid because the kid was crying.
Right. Juggling, and not just juggling the kids, right? Juggling the business side, juggling the creative side. And it's hard, but it's exactly what you said, right? It's like in the shower, I'm thinking of ideas for YouTube shorts.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Exactly.
And I've completely forgot the second question that I wanted to ask. So, you said we, and you said editors. I know that you have a producer everyone speaks very, very highly of, but how big is the 3D Printing Nerd team now?
The team is 2. So it's myself and it's my executive producer, David Tobin. He's actually in the chat. Everybody say hi, David. I feel like David. Nero's stream. Everybody, Nero always says say hi to David in his stream. So it's David Tobin. He lives down in Los Angeles. And then we don't have any editors on staff. We use contract editors in order to edit the stuff. And I mean, it's not like we're using a different one every week. We have a few that we work with consistently, and we're able to plan the content and farm it out to the right editor and then get back wonderful episodes.
Very smart. And I'm the same way. I've outsourced my editing since as long as I can remember. In my past business, I edited, maybe my first online course, and I was like, this is not what Dan Sullivan would call my unique ability. I wasn't put on this earth to edit, but Eric, my video editor that I'm very blessed to work with, he was put on this earth to make beautiful video content and also be a father to his impending child. Joel,
dude. So the first year I did this, talking about not being fit for edit, there's 365 days in a year. And the first year I was a content creator, I believe I put out 270 videos.
Wow.
With me editing. So,
and that was your first marriage, right? Because this now must be your second marriage as a result.
No,
Wow.
man, I have a great wife, dude. She's supportive. She's
I
wonderful. And the kids
I
are good
think
too.
we all have to have great wives to have the number of 3D printers that we do kicking around in our houses. And like we have the best wives in this community. Um, of course, I had a whole list of questions written and now the app won't open. But I do
Uh-oh.
want to ask, how did you make the transition in, right? So you were, as you said, earning a reasonable hourly rate and not hating the work you were doing. At what point did you get into 3D printing? Like what attracted
Oh,
you?
I
Was it
see.
just as a consumer? And then at one point did you say, hey, I want to create content? Because I think that's another inflection point. And at what point did you say, okay, I want to create content full time? I think there's three
Oh, this is
questions in
perfect.
that question. Timeline. Give me a
I
timeline
got this.
as I
You
figure
ready?
out where my text window is.
You figured it. So I got my first 3D printer Christmas of 2014. My wife and kids got me a FlashForge Creator Pro on Amazon. It was on sale, and I opened it up on Christmas. I was like, yes. And I still remember being awake way past midnight Christmas night because I was playing with it and doing stuff. And within the first 3 days of owning it, I very specifically remember thinking, how do I make money with this device? Because it was amazing and I knew there was a way. So I started using Adobe tools like Photoshop to create
Mhm.
cookie cutters because Photoshop has a 3D engine and can export STL files. It's not the
Really?
best. It's
Huh.
not the best, but it does it. And I had that tool because I was working for Adobe at the time. So I started selling 3D printed cookie cutters on Etsy for, $5, $6.
Cool.
And at the time, I still remember the material cost meant that I was spending roughly 40 to 50 cents worth of material to make each one. And so it was some extra income. It was nice.
Mhm.
I got more machines in. I decided that I wanted to make a GoPro camera rig because I wanted to chase the kids around the yard as they were hunting
Mm.
for Easter eggs. And I didn't want to just hold it like this with the GoPro here. It's kind of wobbly, right?
Right.
The wrist isn't a good place for that. I mean, now they have stabilization, but whatever. So I used OpenSCAD because I knew JavaScript to create a GoPro camera rig, a two-handled one. And you print two pieces here, you print two pieces here, and you can kind of, it's fluid. It's
Huh.
great. And I made a tutorial on that, and then people responded and they liked it, and I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna make another tutorial. I'm gonna do other things. And it was, I remember being at Adobe. I remember I created the channel. I got my first subscriber, and I went to my office or my workmate next door across the hall, and I was like, Mitch, I got my first subscriber, and he's like,
Hmm.
yeah. It was fun. So fast forward a bit because a number of years I'd been creating a lot of content. I had been traveling a bit. I eventually created an LLC and a business banking account because everything I did on YouTube, I wanted to keep separate from the personal income that I was getting from Adobe.
Mhm.
And I remember spending way more time than I should. So it got to the point where I essentially had two full-time jobs and I wasn't sleeping enough. And I had to see a neurologist because I was forgetting words, which wasn't
Oh
good.
no.
And I was also having these crazy headaches that just wouldn't go away. I mean, I would push through to create the content because I loved it so much. But my neurologist eventually said, Joel, you need to quit your job. I was like, oh, you mean my job? He's like, yeah, quit your job. Oh, okay. So my wife and I talked. And what I wanted to do is make sure we had some sort of runway set up
Yep.
because if I quit my job, my job, then
Jobby job job.
I didn't want to have the kids fighting over ramen packets in order to survive. So through YouTube, and we kind of got together a general budget, and I looked in the account and we had a 6-month runway. And I thought, this is great. I can quit my job. It'll give us a chance to really try this. And being able to concentrate more daytime on this and be a better brained individual has its benefits as well. So I remember sending an email to my manager at the time and said, I'm sorry, I've got to tender my notice. I'm going to attempt to do content creation. Everybody at Adobe was just ecstatic for me. They were really sad they were losing me as a coworker, but they were like, we hope you succeed. We can't wait to see this. This is wonderful, Joel. I'm still friends with most of them. And so that was it. That was it. And it worked really well. It worked. Well, I mean, the kids haven't had to fight over ramen packets yet, and they can see a
Right.
doctor. So,
That is
I'm going to blow 2
phenomenal.
thumbs up.
I've been an entrepreneur now for, and this is crazy to me to say, 23 years. Like
It's a
I
long
said,
time. So wait, if you're 16, you're 16 when you started it, you said 23
that
years
was
now.
16 was
So
the
are
first
you?
successful company, but I started the first not successful companies at 12 and 13. So I'm going to be 36
Okay.
in 2 days.
You're so old. You're so old.
So
Well, happy
old,
early
so old.
birthday.
Thank you. And I will say, in all that time, I've noticed a few things, and there's always that moment of like do or die, where it's like I'm gonna make this jump, I'm gonna take this plunge, and whenever people ask me like, well, how do you do it? How do I leave my high-paying job? Runway is the exact same term that I use, right? Like if you have the runway, Tim Ferriss talks about this as the fear setting exercise, like just knowing what the worst case is. The worst case is I run out of money in 6 months and go back. But I will say that I've never heard an entrepreneur story where the entrepreneurial advice, excuse me, we're live, where the entrepreneurial advice and the like, you just got to do this, live your dream, comes from a neurologist. It's not, it's not one of your best buddies. It's not like your wife telling you got to live your dream. It's like your neurologist saying, Joel,
well, it's very pragmatic, right?
It's so pragmatic.
Obviously, my neurologist, as someone who cares for my health, knows about me and what I do and where I go and what's happening, because that's what they do. And so it really, I mean, from a health perspective, it made sense.
Yeah. How big was the channel at that point in subscribers? And if you don't mind sharing, in revenue, how big of a plunge was it for you?
Let's see. How big was it? That's a really good question. I would have to go back into analytics. I know,
ballpark.
Geez, you're gonna make me. I have no freaking clue, man. I don't.
All right. Well, while you look that up, I'm gonna
look right now. Right now.
And while we talk about revenue of a YouTube channel, I'm going to take a quick moment and I'm going to share and thank our sponsor for today, which is Sovel. And I didn't have a chance to set up the scene, so I'm going to just click this here. Sovel is the maker of the SV06 Plus and the SV06. Joel, you've tried the SV06. You're actually the reason I agreed to work with Sovel is because I saw your review. You didn't hate it, I think. I love it. I think it's a great machine.
The live stream went great. The machine produced good stuff. There was just one little issue I found out, and they have since talked about a model to fix it. So good on Sovel.
And good on you as well, because the only reason I agreed to review the unit is I was like, well, Joel, didn't hate it, didn't think it was awful. But in any case, this is the strangest sponsor segment ever. Sovel is the maker of the SV06, and they just came out with the SV06 Plus, which improves on a lot of the little weird things that people didn't like about the SV06. For example, it has a touchscreen, it has a higher flow, big volume hot end, and it has a filament runout sensor. I've used the SV06. I like it. I think it's a really good printer at the price. Check out, we'll put a link in the description, but sovel.com, and you can use the coupon code NEXTLAYER, and you can get $10 off a purchase over $259. And thank you to Sovel, because any sponsor who would risk their brand on me is much appreciated and brave to the point of questioning. Joel, you have an answer for us?
I don't. I don't know how to find like subscribers up to. I'm sure I had. Well, let's see. I remember I celebrated 100,000 subscribers at a Matter Hackers party.
Okay.
Which meant I had achieved that number before that. And then I remember while at that party, Angus, Maker's Muse, was there, and he reached 100,000 subscribers while at the party. We had it up on a TV and everything. So I would imagine, let's see, that was probably, I don't know, it was a number 2017, 2018, maybe. Okay. And I was probably around, when I quit, I was probably 80, 90,000, maybe.
That's phenomenal.
Maybe more. It might have been more. Phenomenal. Oh, my dates are terrible, man. That's
fine. I'm the worst at that as well. And I wrote numerous books on memory, but I couldn't tell you what year I'm remembering when I remember it. It's like, I don't know. I had a beard at the time, so I was over 16.
You have a beard now.
Exactly. It could have been any time in the last 20 years, this story I'm telling you.
So as far as subscribers, I don't really know revenue. I also don't
really know.
remember exact numbers. So at the time that I did quit my job at Adobe, part of the reason was my doctor telling me to do this. The other was because I had just went to CES and I met with Dave from Matter Hackers. They've always been a friend. And so I told him my idea, kind of what I was thinking before my neurologist told me about it. And we came up with a deal, at least a 6-month run of something where Matter Hackers would help support the channel. And so I remember that, let's see there. God, I don't remember exact numbers, but
that's fine.
At the time it was ad revenue plus the Matter Hacker support that made it a go. Yeah.
And let me ask,
the runway.
I don't hate. I like the trend of entrepreneurs sharing their revenue. I less like the trend of sharing their income, which are not the same things. What's the top line, if you don't mind sharing, of course, the top line revenue of 3D printing nerd international enterprises before the employees and all that kind of stuff? Just because Repcord is in the chat saying more entrepreneurship stuff. So I figured that
build in the open. I don't know. I have an accountant.
That's awesome.
And no. So I
it's
I have
awesome
to tell
that you have such great people around you that you don't have to worry about those details and you can just create. That's like you have graduated from entrepreneurship. You've made it.
So part of why we're able to do that is because of the people that I have working with me. So I have an accountant and I just give her access to CSV dumps of all my accounts. And I say, here you go. And she has a really good idea of what's a business expense and what categories they go into. And she gives me some numbers at the end and she tells me if I owe or if I get something back and what her fees are. And then I just pay those. I'm really not good at business. I just yell at the camera. But also,
but you might actually be brilliant at business because let me tell you, since I was 16, I went to like every workshop and every training and went to business school to try and learn how to do what you're just doing intuitively, which is let go and hire smart enough people that they can do their jobs and you're not involved. Like that's every entrepreneur you talk to. That's like their, the hill that they're dying on is how do I just get out of the day-to-day of my business? And it sounds like you've done it, right? You're so focused on creation.
Sort of. So I recognize where my strengths are and what I'm able to do fairly well. Accounting and almost being accountable sometimes, not. So then my accountant does that. Every once in a while, I loop in my lawyer friend, who I call my corporate lawyer, and she does the things. Executive producer David, he is much better at business. He's more red than me, and he thinks different than me. I can I like if there's something really cool going on, David looks in a direction and just goes, and he can wrap up the whole thing. He did a lot of stuff in Hollywood before. Like he's worked on 49 different shows and live events and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's
That's
more
awesome.
than qualified, which is great because he takes care of that. And his goal is always to take things off my plate so that I can have consecutive hours of just doing cool stuff.
I'm telling you, man, you've graduated entrepreneurship. Like that's it. You're done.
If I could clone David and sell him into servitude, the clones, not him really.
The clones, of course.
I'd be a gajillionaire. Yeah.
Clones don't have human rights, just clone rights.
Thanks, Star Wars.
I know everyone in the audience is like, okay, when are you going to talk about 3D printing actually? But how did you find David?
David is like a brother from another mother. So a mutual friend of ours introduced us. He did his story is wonderful. He used to manage the Roxy down in Hollywood and has like at the time he did this, if they were famous, he knew them like that. It's that sort of thing. So he's always been in photography and he took concert photos. He loves concert photos and he can still take photos to this day. And so at the time, I worked with certain Seattle bars to do late night, bar photos where I'd go around, take pictures of people having fun and they would put them on their website. And so the girl that I met, she put us in touch because she's like, you two would get along great. And so we did. That's it. That's like it. I met a girl in a bar. Kismet. She introduced me to her friend. We're now brothers.
That is kismet. I love that. I have a question for you that I wrote in advance, but I think I already know the answer to, which is, have you managed to maintain your passion for this? Because a lot of times in businesses that I've started, and I'm dreading letting this happen here, but I started a car parts business because I loved modifying cars when that was all the rage. And after, 5 years, it becomes a day job, right? And you manage to destroy a passion for something by turning it into a job. Have you? And if so, how have you maintained your passion for actual 3D printing and tinkering in your garage?
That's a tough one. So what I do day to day, so as a content creator, as you well know, if it's worth doing with a camera.
Yes.
Because everything is content. And while I tend to think like that, I've sort of pulled myself away from that a little bit, or at least I've determined what things are what type of content. So as an example, a lot of the stuff that I have in my garage, I get a chance to just kind of go in there and do some crazy things with it, or test things, or interact with things that the community is interested in, and then I can give them short form content about these things, because I can use my phone and I can record a vertical video and trim it down to 60 seconds and then put it out on the various networks and share that with them. So that's kind of fun, right? That's the kind of low key, fun stuff that you're still passionate about and you still have a really good time with. So at the studio, a lot of stuff over there, I've done short form content, but really the point of that is to create long form, horizontal, typically produced TV show. That's essentially what we're making, is a TV show. And so between those two things, there's not a lot of time to kind of hobby it. 3D printing is still my hobby. Like every once in a while at night, I'll be like, man, I'm going to go print something, I'm going to do that. But also a lot of times I've sat down on the couch and I'm like, let's just stay here. Let's just stay here on the couch. So what really starts to bring it back for me, and this happens a lot, is when a young person reaches out or meets me and tells me about how I've changed their life for the better, whether it's because I showcased a machine that they got, whether or not it's because I showed them a way of making something and they took that and they ran with it, or maybe it's because, and I've heard this, I've inspired kids to talk to their teachers to apply for grants to get maker spaces built at their school. When you hear stuff like that, it warms you up a little bit, right? A little tear comes out and your heart feels warmer than usual. And you're like, this is what it feels like. And so I think no matter whether or not in the future I've got 10 employees, 100 employees, a multi-vertical business that's globally crushing it, I think at the end of the day, it's still about the people whose lives you can affect in a positive way. And that's never going to get old. And that's always going to make me smile. And that's where it's at. I think
I'm right there with you.
Like, no matter how deep you are in the trenches of creator warfare, like there's still that glimmer of hope in a kid's eye when they talk to you. And that's where it's at, man.
I can relate to that so much. And I got sick of talking about memory techniques like 3 or 4 years ago. And one of the things we started doing was whenever I would travel to a city, I would just host a lunch and just meet a couple people locally who had taken the course or read the book, and just hear their stories. And it would like boost me and keep me going for another couple months to hear like, oh, I passed the bar exam because of your book. And, and it would just be so much fun. I have all these pictures with all these people.
But there's weight to that. Like being able to affect someone's life, their life in a positive way carries so much just good weight. Like you want to hear that and you want to hold on to that.
And a stranger. And that's what's so cool about it, is like, that's the coolest thing about the internet, right? Is like, you can just touch lives that you never would have interacted with. You said a young person, and I've noticed that you don't mention your kids in videos a lot, and you, at least not the ones that I've shown, you don't you don't show them. Is that your choice or theirs or your wife's or all of the above, or just, you're busy at the studio? I guess as a father myself, I'm curious if that's a conscientious decision you've made.
So my wife and I both believe in the kids' ability to have body autonomy. It's theirs, right? We're not going to, you're not forcing hugs. I'm not forcing going on camera. As younger children, they're more up for, I think, certain things. Right. All the kids now are teenagers, so they have their own lives, they have their own friends, they have their own kind of routines they follow in the day. Every once in a while, one of them might ask, can I live stream with you? Which we will do. Or every once in a while, someone will say, can you help with something that's 3D printing related, but not necessarily content related? And so it's whatever the kids want. Cool. It was their choice. They were okay with it anytime they've been featured on the show. But now, if I'll still tell them projects that are coming up if they want to be involved. And sometimes they just don't want to. And it's like, that's totally fine.
Of course. Yeah. No, I didn't know if, I guess that when I wrote the question, I also didn't know that they were old enough to have a say. For some reason I thought you had
kids old, man.
In the 5 or 6 year old range, which they have a say, but they don't understand the ramifications of like, this video is going to be on the internet forever, and you're wearing a tutu.
One of the things, so there's an older video where our daughter Sydney printed a bunch of Pikachus on the Prusa printer, and that was fun. She had a fun time doing it, and that will live out there forever. And it's just fun to see that, and it just exists in the chronology of their life. And it's when every once in a while Google Photos or Amazon Photos says, hey, 12 years ago on this day, and so it's just one of those things. It's a happy, fun moment. And that doesn't mean that there has to be more of those. It exists in time, and it's just fun.
Do your kids think what you do is really cool, or is it just like, because I've heard Kanye West say like, oh, my kids are like, oh God, my dad's doing some song, they're like embarrassed of him just like every other parent. But, the upcoming...
There's plenty of reasons to be embarrassed about being Kanye West.
100%. 100%. Agreed. But also, the number one desired job for kids age like 18 to 24 is YouTuber. So yeah. I'm curious, are your kids like super into the fact that you're a content creator, YouTuber?
They don't care. It's how it's always been. So I became a content creator at the point in their lives where they aren't babies, but they're still young children. And so they've known no other way. Like it's always been that there are piles of machines in the house, or it's always been dad's up late or dad has to travel for an event to get there. So it's never been, they've always just, they just accept it. I mean, they think it's cool because I get to do cool things, and sometimes they get to hear about them or go places. One of the things that's interesting though, as they've gotten older and they have friends that are older as well, they will make friends of kids who know who I am. Like my son recently had a baseball tournament, and a number of kids on the team were like, whoa, you're famous, you're 3D printing nerd, oh my God, can I have a sticker? Sure.
That is awesome. That's really, really cool. Now, you mentioned you almost like what questions I'm going to ask, because you keep giving me these beautiful segues. I can tell you've been in the business, or David is whispering in your ear like, okay, here's where we're going. Hi, David. You said, piles and piles of machines. I heard someone, I don't remember who, speak very kind of fondly of you and commend you that you're donating the machines. And I wanted to ask how you found those relationships, where you're donating them to, and also how you deal with the liability. Because I want to donate some machines around here, but I'm worried that if they're going to be like, oh, some kid burned his finger off because of you.
Canceled. I haven't really taken liability into consideration when doing a lot of the donations, because they are people, I'm not giving them to an organization. It's like, I have this machine. Would you like it? Yes. So as an example, Pooch from Repcord, he was up, and we took, me and him, wife and kids, some of our friends, we went to a brew pub and had dinner, and we kind of tweeted that we've got 12 machines here if you can find out where we are. And so 12 people, using the clues we had tweeted about, found where we were and got their pick of the machines. And so that was a donation. I've also taken a number of machines down to Protopasta because they're in Vancouver, Washington, which is about 2.5, 3 hours south. And then we had lots of machines to give away, and then certain ones people would bid for, with all proceeds going to Amy Double D's video game museum scholarship.
Got it.
And then I have given some machines to the University of Washington because they're local, but we have paperwork with them, and so there's more of an official process there. But a lot of times, like I've got some machines at the studio I'm eyeballing just to like. I'm going to go to Twitter and be like, I have a machine here. I'd like to trade it for a dozen donuts. Who's got a dozen, what's your offer, sort of things. It's just fun things like that. Very
cool. Okay. I thought you were like taking them to an elementary school and being like, here you go. Don't get maimed.
I said, no, I've given some to local middle school and high schools.
Yeah.
But it's so, I understand the liability concerns, but I think in the people that I've donated to, I don't think that's necessarily like that isn't a path that's crossed. And with anything where it's an official donation, there's paperwork involved.
Right. Okay. That's cool. Because I was thinking I was just going to go down to Jaffa. I also live in Israel, so there's like a lot of opportunities for, there's multicultural kind of maker spaces and cool stuff of ways of finding peace through this hobby that, we all love. And I was thinking like, how do I not end up on the news for maiming some kid? In any case, that's really cool that you donate them.
You can always come up with just a little piece of paper that as you donate it, people are just signing it saying, I understand this is as is, blah, blah. And I release Jonathan from any whatever.
Yeah. Now, of all the machines that you have, and how many machines, do you even know how many machines you have in your possession?
It's more than my fingers and my toes. I know that.
Yeah. Which is your go-to right now? This is controversial. Someone asked,
it's not really that controversial. I mean, I understand why it can be, but my go-to is really the machine that's close to me, loaded with filament that I want to use.
Okay.
It's easy. Like behind me, I've got my Prusa Mark 3S. Sometimes I'm going on that. Next to that is a Prusa with a Revo system on it, depending on the nozzle I want. And next to that is my X1 Carbon in case I want to do something multi-material or multicolor.
So you don't have a machine where you're like, okay, I really need this print to work the first time. I should just print it on this, like the Mark Forge or something like that?
Most of the time, most of my machines work the first time. It's not like I have a farm of A8s or crappy under 3s that have seen their days. I have, for example, like if I want something to work really well, and it's big, I'll go to my G-Max because it's built like a tank, and I can, it's been off for like 6 months, but I could turn it on and print something and it would be great. Just like that.
I just want to emphasize that the fact that you said most of the time, most of my printers work the first time. Like, anyone else catch that? Let me know in the comments, because most of the time, most of my printers, I think it's because I mess with them too much. Most of the time, most of my printers are in need of repair.
I don't tinker with the machines much at this point.
That's your secret.
I don't know if that's a secret. It's just because a lot of times what I'm doing is relating my experience with something to a user group who's wondering if they want to purchase it. Right. And if I modify something, that then means I have to tell them, you need to, once you buy it, you then need to do this modification to make it work. Yeah. And in the example of the SVO6 Plus from Soval, it's very much like you could secure the bed wires yourself, but Soval should really address this, which they did. So, like the Mark Forged machine I have, like, I'm not going to modify that. That's a $20,000 printer. I'm just going to be like, if I need to print continuous carbon fiber strand in nylon, that's what, that'll do it pretty well. Right.
Now I'm going to give the audience an opportunity. I mean, I'm still going to ask questions because I'm selfish, but
Sure.
Now's about the time, folks, in the chat where if you have wonderful questions for Joel and you're listening live, if you're driving in your
It's
car
void
listening to
space.
this,
Ben in chat is like, can confirm Joel's printers never fail unless I use them. So Ben used to work for me for a little bit, and I tasked him
cool.
with some reviews, doing some test prints to make it work. And there were some times where things didn't work so well.
Naturally, I've come to the realization like there's it's kind of a parabola, right? There's a normal distribution of like you get the printer. Well, I guess it's different with the Voron, right? Which people are asking in the chat, why no Voron? Where's the Voron?
Why no Voron yet? Well,
yet. Oh, there's a yet.
Stay tuned. Just stay tuned.
Ooh.
Yeah, just stay tuned.
That's awesome. That's a really, really fun build, and I'm now eyeing my second one.
Really?
Yeah,
so
because
I've got a 2.4 kit. I've got a 0.1 kit, and I've got a farm bot kit. So the farm bot, I know I'm going to get built this spring, summer, and plant some tasty things in there.
Plant some tasty things.
Yeah,
that's really exciting. What's the last thing that you printed? What are some of the last things that you printed?
What's the last thing I printed? I just set up. I didn't get a print yet on it though. I did a test for my mic cube. It's a little bit big.
Nice.
So I've got the top part and the bottom part I've shrunk down a little bit, but that's going to be a mic cube. So when I take the Lollipop mic to events.
Yep.
Let's see. What did I print? Oh, there's a big, it's called the Millennial Falcon. That's what the model's name is. I printed it on the eMake Galaxy 1. And that's in the garage. That was a multi-day print. I did on that Prusa over there, I did a Kim the Mechanic to show off organic supports. You're going to see that soon.
Nice. Do you find that you're mostly printing, you're a functional print guy, or you're like a Uncle Jesse, let me print cool stuff guy?
I am a non-denominational 3D printer. So
okay.
I don't belong to the functional religion, but I also don't belong to the tchotchke religion. If 3D printing, I am non-denominational. So I print, Jonathan, I print whatever I want, man. It's just cool. It's cool looking at robots laying down melted plastic. It's cool looking at robots curing goo as it pulls it out of a vat. Like it's all just cool. And I think some of the people that are like, this is a tool for functional prints only.
Right.
A multicolor print provides a function as well. It sometimes just looking at it and holding it in your hand brings endorphins, and it just makes you smile, and it makes you happy. Oh, one of the most recent prints were a hand and a foot model of a cast for a mother who lost her 3-month-old son.
Amazing.
And we just released that episode last Friday. Thank you. That was probably one of the most recent ones I did.
Really cool. All the field, all of them.
It was all of them. Oh, lots of people like that one. That was it's probably, I don't know. I can't, like David and I were talking about this. I don't think there's been any other quote unquote 3D printing episode of anyone's show that has really kind of went there and brought about that emotion and that connection to humanity. And so I mean, I don't necessarily need to be first with everything, but it felt really cool to sort of bring that about in the 3D printing community. And I really hope that it sparks more. Like, I hope more people are able to use these machines to connect with humanity, whether it's with a functional print or, a pretty print.
Yeah, it's been a long time since people went there. And I remember seeing Brie Pettis. Thank you. Brie Pettis.
Yep.
When the whole 3D printed guns thing was becoming an issue, and he pointed out, he's like, why are we emphasizing that when just today on Thingiverse, someone uploaded an open source model for prosthetic hands that are parametric and you can scale them to children's sizes. It's like, let's talk about and focus on that. You know what I mean? Like, if the news is going to publicize the power of 3D printing, let's publicize that and be positive. And that stuck with me for years.
That's what that's what we try to do, is just reinforce the positive and try to bring about love, hope, acceptance, and warmth. That's why I just tell people at the end of my show to hug each other more, because that's what I do.
And right now, Bob at this moment says, Joel is a major reason why I've been successful in 3D printing and didn't just give up when my first printer was a piece.
Aww.
He's changed my life for the better. That's awesome.
Aww.
That is awesome. I actually have a bunch of
threw him a heart
that are wonderful from the audience.
Sure. Fire away, man. Let's
favorite polymer. What do you like to print with? Someone actually asked on Twitter why you print with so much PLA, but I guess I'll ask the question. What's your favorite thing to print with and why?
Oh, well, why not? Like, there's nothing wrong with PLA. There's so many different colors and variations and additives. I mean, it's a wonderful material. It's easy to use. It brings about joy in what you print with it. Yeah, why not? I like, there is a color from Printed Solid called Golden Winter. And it is the most glorious golden color I've seen in a material. That's awesome. It's amazing. I mean, people are like, I was going to say, oh, he's probably going to say his High Five Blue from Protopasta, which is good. Protopasta makes amazing materials. Yeah. There are a lot of incredible colors, and their materials are very diverse. I'm sorry, their colors are diverse within their catalog, but man, that Golden Winter from Printed Solid is just something about it, man. Like, I just want to make all the trophies and just, yeah, it's good. If you can ever get your hands on it, if you can ever get your hands on Golden Winter from Printed Solid, I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
I'll put a link to that in the description.
Yeah, there you go. Find it. Let's see. What do I like? My favorite, though, my favorite's probably PLA, just for ease of use. And there's so many different colors and additives that you can add to it to vary your experience.
It's abundantly recyclable, unlike some
it is at the industrial level.
Not like, compostable, but yeah.
No, yeah. I can't go bury it in my garden for 5 years. It'll still be there. Or maybe I will because it's a functional print. See?
True. But it recycles nicely, unlike, well, actually, I think most thermoplastics do recycle nicely.
They can, as long as they are sorted. Like if you have a bunch of PETG and ABS together, you're gonna have issues. But
game over.
If you're PETG, if you have a big giant pile of PETG and that's it, you can find a way to recycle that.
I have been collecting since I saw Uncle Jesse's video where he melted down a bunch of stuff. I started collecting all my stuff in bins: ABS, PLA, PETG, and I've got probably like 3 kilos now of PLA. And I'm trying to
great.
I won't name who it is, but I want to do like a Team Trees type challenge where I get 1,000 kilos of recycled materials, because there's a manufacturer here in Israel that can do custom polymers. They do it for the defense industry, but they have the equipment, and I'm trying to guilt them into like letting me just, do a Mr. Beast style, like, let's all come and sort plastic, and I want to recycle 1,000 kilos for Earth Day. But they're not returning my emails.
It's a fun idea. I don't know if they're for the defense industry.
They probably don't want us hanging out.
Email back from them. Maybe not. I don't know. There might be things there you shouldn't put on camera. I'm just saying.
Fair. Favorite infill pattern?
Gyroid, man. Gyroid's the best. And anybody who doesn't think that is actually wrong.
Yeah. I like gyroid. I do like.
I'm a big fan of gyroid. I like gyroid. Yeah.
Fair enough.
It just looks cool. Yeah.
What are you most excited about in this space? What are you looking at on the horizon and saying like, oh, I can't wait?
I think what I'm seeing in this space is the path for someone to get into manufacturing has never been easier, because the kids, the adults, the people who are using 3D printers in their garage, their maker space, their after school program, their work, whatever, any of these consumer-based 3D printers, 80% of what you know about it can translate to a big industrial machine in most cases, which means that the experience that you or anyone else is getting in using these machines directly translates to that additive manufacturing revolution where we're using crazy metals and crazy gels. Well, just as an example, Massivit can print 4 feet by 5 feet by 6 feet. It's a gel dispensing head, and it UV cures it as it goes around.
Yeah.
Wonderful machine. You still have to jog the X, Y, and Z axes. You have to jog the heads. You have to jog the material in and out. You have to prep the bed. You have to watch a first layer go down. You have to verify the speeds are cool. That all sounds like, because you have to do that on all these other machines. And so this experience that you get is really transferable. And there's never been a better time to be able to follow that pathway into manufacturing. That's kind of what I see. I know lots of consumer 3D printers are cool, lots of really neat materials coming down, but man, just as you know, you go to your form next and man, your eyes get open and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. And now it's not only possible, your experience in the consumer side directly translates.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. I did comment in one of my videos and people took it the wrong way. I said, I think building a 3D printer with me was a better experience for my son than any kind of, science kit in a box. And I showed B-roll of Mark Rober talking about Crunch Labs, which I think it is, because it's practical. It's not a toy cut out of wood to teach principles. That's not in any way an indictment of Mark Rober. I love Mark Rober, but I think, like, as you said, this is actual engineering and actual STEM that you're doing in a super accessible way on your desktop whenever you want, with millions of people online that are supporting you and uploading their designs and thoughts and feedback for free. This is like a massive open source revolution for innovation, right?
It's really cool to see, because and part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing and why David and I travel and showcase all of these really cool, amazing industrial solutions is because people don't realize that they have this amazing thing on their desk, and the ability to take that and transfer that knowledge into a career is right there. And it's going to get even easier as time moves on. So I'm just, I'm excited your kid got to build your printer with you.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that will spark the interest and your son will be part of the additive revolution.
That is my hope. I grew up with a father who was an engineer and all his life looked at, the CEO of the company and said, my son's going to be the CEO, not the engineer. I grew up as an entrepreneur and I'm like, I really hope my son's going to be an engineer. Because as an entrepreneur, I think of all these ideas that I've had throughout the last 20 years. And I think, man, if I just had an engineering degree, I could have done those ideas. I could have led those businesses. I think it's an amazing time to be an entrepreneur, but it's also an amazing time to be an engineer and be building these technologies that are empowering billions of people. It is actually crazy what we can do now.
Well, okay, so I like what you said, but let's remember, you're like, man, I wish I would have been an engineer. Right. But there's tons of engineers that are like, man, I wish I had someone that could help me manage this project. And there's project managers who are like, man, I need someone to handle the day-to-day of business. And then there's business people that are like, oh my gosh, if only we had someone to speak at the high level. And so I don't think engineering is cool. And I don't think forcing anyone down that pathway is correct. I think lighting the spark and finding which direction they tend to lean, and then just helping along that way is the way to
100%,
go. Because I think we need more engineers, but we also need more business people. We need more project managers. We need more CEOs. We need
more happy humans, for sure.
Sure. I get that.
And I think the way you put it is very nicely, lighting that spark in a way that for many generations it wasn't. And for my generation, it was like, oh, you're not that good at math, you could never be an engineer. But that's not true. That's a misconception, right? It's like, I know a lot of doctors today, friends who are like, oh, I was terrible at biology, but I pushed through it because I loved medicine and I loved the human aspect of being a doctor, and I loved the physiology of surgery. And just because I didn't know that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, which is all we really know from high school biology. Joel,
just because a doctor at the time in school didn't do well at biology, it doesn't mean they're not a good doctor. It just means 100%. That at the time in their life where they learned biology, that wasn't the right time. Because obviously 100%. They found success. And so we all learn at different rates at different times. And so even if someone, a doctor, didn't do well in biology, it just means that it could be that the next year they do great. It could be, there's cycles to thinking. So
Totally.
I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. Joel, what's next for you and your channel? What's on the horizon?
Let's see what's on the horizon.
You just crossed 600,000 subscribers. And as we all know, as YouTubers, we derive 90% of our self-worth from numbers, even if it's just, the number of lives we've impacted. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I know subscribers people always say it's a vanity number because views are what count. And really, at the end of the day, I'm just thankful to be very proud of the content we've created, because everything should tell a wonderful story, and it does. Everything should have takeaway information, which it does. And that's all possible just because of David and our editors and just working together as a team. But what's next? Let's see. Working with some big manufacturers, I think is going to happen. I think that some trips are going to be good. The Rocky Mountain Rep Rap Festival, we should be making it to that. That should be fun. Murph and Irf, of course. The Sanjay Mortimer Rep Rap Smurf. Going to try to make that as well. I will
see you there. I'm going to come for that.
At which one?
The Sanjay Mortimer Smurf.
Smurf. Okay, yeah, December.
It's called Smurf. Far you have to be there. Blue,
yeah, you have to be. It's so far away that
it is.
I'm planning on being there. I should be there, but 3 or 4 different major world-changing events could happen in that time, and so I'm just going to say I would like to be there, and we'll hope it's.
I would like you to be there. That'll be awesome.
I would like to be there. I ran the auction last year. Whenever I did it, I ran the auction. We raised tons of money for the foundation, and they were like, "If you can make it again, you can run the auction again." And I'm like, "Boy, howdy, let's do this."
All right, we'll make it happen. How can we support you, Joel? I want to thank you very, very sincerely from the bottom of my heart. You're my third guest, and I am not worthy of your time. But you are such a generous guy that you agreed to come on, which was amazing, and you're just a wonderful human being. How can we support you and help you in your mission to inspire more people?
The best way to support 3D Printing Nerd, like the shows, the episodes that we put out and work hard to make, is to watch them. And if you feel compelled to do so, share them with someone who might like to see it. That's really it. Money's nice. I think I've got some affiliate links somewhere. I have a Patreon. I don't really advertise. There are tons of ways to make money appear, and money is great because it makes us able to do crazy things. But at the end of the day, the best way to support it is to just watch the content. And if you feel compelled to do so, share it with someone who might like to see it.
That is awesome. Joel, I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thanks for having me.
Everything I thought it would be and more. I also want to thank Soval, our wonderful sponsor, for making this episode possible. And Joel, we will put links in the description to all the things. You want to say, I feel like your outro is better than mine. So why don't you say your outro? Because it's just phenomenal.
Sure. I can do that. Thanks for watching this fun live stream today. And if you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more. Fight for a cause you believe in. Print all the things. And as always, high five.
Perfect. Joel, thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, man. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infill Podcast. For show notes or links to anything mentioned in today's episode, visit thenextlayer.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please don't forget to leave us a review wherever you're listening, or click the like button to let us know. And consider subscribing to The Next Layer on YouTube so you can tune in live and participate in the next conversation. We'll see you on The Next Layer.